The EZ-EFI 2.0 is a self-learning fuel injection system, but first it needs a few things to gather its information. Today we have David Page to show us some of those steps.
Thanks, Brandon. So once you have everything plugged in and installed, the mechanical physical part is done. Everything's bolted in, the wires are all plugged in and connected. You've turned the ignition switch on, and now what do? The handheld has a real simple to follow setup wizard that will guide you through a few questions that have to be answered about the engine for the system to calibrate itself properly and to begin to self-learn for this particular engine. So you go into the setup wizard. The first series of questions are, what's the cubic inch of the engine? That's obvious information that it needs.
Okay.
What RPM do you want the engine to idle at? What RPM do you want the rev limiter to be set at to prevent over rev for your engine? So we simply set this cubic inch. This is a 327 inch engine. We want the idle speed on this particular engine to be 900 RPMs. And we're done with that screen.
Okay. What is our next screen?
The next thing, it has some questions about the fuel system. What type of fuel? You got two options, either gasoline or E85. Then it needs to know if you're running a return style fuel system or a returnless style fuel system.
Which one do you suggest?
Return style is always the best functioning system. Returnless system offers the benefit of not requiring a return line, so it's a little simpler plumbing wise. But in hot climates, returnless system can introduce the possibility of vapor lock, which is something you don't want. And also in high horsepower applications where you're really pushing the limits of the capacity of your fuel pump, a return style system can respond to fuel needs quicker.
Okay.
So we in most applications, we strongly recommend a return style system.
Awesome.
And that's what this engine has. And we are using gasoline fuel, so those are done. Next, it's going to want to know what type of ignition are we using. Is this a distributor? Is it an LS engine like this is? If it is a distributor, what type? So in this case, we're just going to select the box that says EZ-LS/XIM for ignition. Then once we select that, there are several options. You have LS, you have Ford, you have Chrysler Hemi coil-on plug engines. This is the LS. Then there's a simple screen where you set your ignition timing. You set your initial idle timing on the left of the screen. On the right of the screen, you're going to set your max timing. And in the middle, you can set what RPM that all the timing advance is brought into. Real simple, 3 things to set, builds the whole timing curve.
Easy cheesy.
Easy cheesy. Next, it's going to want to know what type of induction. Is this our EZ-EFI throttle body? If you select that, the injectors are a known quantity, so it just plugs that data in. Or is it a multi-port system with multiple injectors? In this particular application, this engine is set up to run either. We're running off the multi-port at this particular time. So if we select multi-port, then it needs to know what size injectors you have, because obviously then you have the option to put whatever injectors you want. These are 36 pound-an-hour injectors, and there are 8 injectors, and the fuel pressure is set at 43. Those 3 pieces of information are all you need to put in.
Okay.
Next thing it's going to want is to calibrate the throttle position sensor. So we push the button to calibrate the sensor at idle. Next, it tells us to open the throttle wide open to make sure the engine is off. You don't want to do this with the engine running.
With it on.
And then press the button while the throttle is held wide open. And it learns that. And now, the calibration process is finished. We have the option to test the fuel system. This is the time to check for leaks.
Yes.
So when you get ready to push this button to say start, you're going to manually turn the pump on, have your buddy stand over the engine looking at all the lines, hit start, the fuel pump turns on. We're checking for leaks and verifying the pressure at the same time.
Okay.
Done. Now it's time to crank the engine.
We're about ready to start this thing, aren't we?
So here the screen tells you to crank the engine and get it up to 170 degrees. Basically, that is just operating temperature. So we're going to start the engine.
Okay, so while it started, what is it learning?
So the first thing it does is it compares the actual air-fuel ratio to the target air-fuel ratio that you've set in the system. Now the default target air-fuel ratios are general safe numbers for any engine.
Okay.
13.5 to 1 for idle, 14 to 1 for cruise, and 12.8 to 1 for wide open.
And that'll get it started without hurting anything.
Any engine will run safely with those numbers.
Okay, great.
So it compares those two, and it adds positive or negative, or takes away negative correction in order to try to make those two meet. Then it learns from that.
Okay.
Typical systems have always made corrections, but what's new about adaptive learning is it takes those corrections and it builds a fuel table for this engine. So the correction that's needed is a guide as to how much the map needs changed at that particular point.
Fine tuned it accordingly.
Yes.
So now we get it started, we let it run, and then we want to go out and drive the car. And let
It's time to drive it. As I said, it learns in different states.
Okay.
So it may sit here and learn idle. Then you light throttle cruise, that's a different area of the fuel map.
How
it'll
long should
learn
somebody
there.
go out and drive at light throttle? And
Typically, 30 to 40 minutes of driving will tune it pretty good. The more you drive it, it continues to learn. It never stops refining, making small changes. How far the needs of the engine are from the base calibration determine exactly how long it takes. Some engines are almost perfect from the start. Others take a little longer to learn, but I would say an average of about half an hour driving time.
Okay, awesome. And that's it. As you can see, the EZ-EFI 2.0 is in fact very easy. If you have any more questions, just visit the website fuelairspark.com or call the tech line.